Can feel free to mingle after the question and answer period is finished. I would like to thank the Northwood Community Association for their efforts in executing this event for our community and for the Northwood Fire Department collectively for allowing the use of this facility. We would like to thank all of the candidates that participate this evening and wish them good luck. And with that, if it's all right with you, I know I asked too, but I am going to read the statement from Joe Falcone. His statement is as follows. First and foremost, I would like to thank Rachel Rodriguez and the Northwood Community Association in organizing this incredibly important event. I would also like to wish Rachel, Jennifer Johnson, and Marie Galati the best of luck in this upcoming election. I am confident that once elected, Hopatcong will be in a great position to succeed, and the Hopatcong Board of Education will finally have a working partner. My name is Joe Falcone, and I have had the privilege of serving as a Hopatcong Board of Education member for the past 2 years. Before I go into a little about myself, let me first apologize for not being able to attend in person as I had originally planned. My son received a last-minute invitation to play in the Red Bull Soccer Stadium, a dream come true for him, and a moment I wanted to share with him. With that being said, I am truly honored to be sharing the ballot with amazing candidates. I have had the privilege of working very closely with Jason Citrich, not only on the school board, but as board members for the Hopatcong Youth Wrestling Program. I have also had the privilege of coaching both Jim and Natalie's wonderful children in soccer. I have the utmost respect for these people, and am extremely excited to know that regardless of the outcome in this upcoming election, we have 4 candidates who are truly going to be putting the children of Hopatcong as well as the best interest of the school district first. As most of you may know, our school systems are in a very delicate place. The decisions being made over the next several months will determine the success and future of our schools. I think that most of us were truly heartbroken that our most recent attempt at a referendum was voted down, most notably due to a small population of residents who simply put their personal agenda ahead of the children's best interest. The good thing is that I don't give up that easily. Current members of the board do not give up that easily, and I am confident that the 3 other candidates in attendance tonight will not give up that easily. As a lifelong Hopatcong resident, the success of this town is deeply rooted into my DNA. Hopatcong gave me my start. Hopatcong provided me a platform to be successful in life, and now it's time for me to pay it back. I would like to thank you once again all for attending. I would like to thank the candidates who are in attendance tonight. I would also like to applaud their decision to volunteer their precious time and energy to ensuring the future of Hopatcong and the legacy of Hopatcong schools continues to live on and succeed. Thank you very much for considering me as a candidate, and have a good night. I will leave this statement over at the refreshments later if anyone wants to take a look at it. And we will go ahead now and start in the order of the people as they are said. With Jason Citrich, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I want to thank the NCA for setting this up. Thank you, Rachel Rodriguez, for inviting me. I appreciate it. My name is Jason Citrich. I am currently a member of the Board of Education. I was actually not voted in. I was appointed when there was a vacancy in the seat. So now I am obviously seeking re-election. I'm a longtime resident. I'm a graduate of Hopatcong High School. I have 3 children. One had graduated Hopatcong High School, 2 are currently in the district, in high school and the middle school. I have an undergraduate from William Patterson University in sociology. I have a master's in cyber and homeland security from Fairleigh Dickinson University. I've been employed by municipal police department for 27 years. And during the course of 27 years, I have assumed many roles, some of which have been, I was a school liaison. I conducted school security assessments for all these public and private schools in the municipality. I developed and implemented some of the school emergency plans and drills they conduct monthly as required by law. I was a tactical team leader for a SWAT team when we had it, and I was also the training coordinator. I have to write down some notes because I'm scattered. I'm involved in the community here in Hopatcong. For the past 8 years, I've been a football coach. Currently I'm the 7th, 8th grade varsity head coach. I also am the president of the Hopatcong Youth Wrestling Program. I've served as a coach, vice president, also for about 8 to 9 years now.
15 seconds.
Okay, get that.
Oh, you did 15.
Yep, 15.
That's me in
You're all set?
1
Okay.
minute and 45 seconds.
All right, Mr. Chaffee, you have 2 minutes.
Chaffee.
Chaffee, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Citric and Chaffee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having us tonight. This is mine and my running mate Natalia's first foray into politics, and we're not true politicians, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm truly privileged to be running alongside Natalia, though. We share a lot of the same ideals and beliefs, and we just love our children so very much, and that's why we're up here tonight. I began my career in education 15 years ago, having worked briefly in a suburban district before transferring to the Essex County Schools of Technology in Newark, where I'm still today. In Essex County, I teach history as well as a vocational course in emergency management. I have my master's in emergency management and homeland security with a specialty in school safety. Like Mr. Citrich, I've been able to work with our school's security team and our safety committee. I write all of our EOPs and work with the Essex County Sheriff's Office to implement them and train the officers when they come into the school, as well as with the Newark Fire Department. My wife Megan and I moved here 12 years ago, and we've made Hopatcong our home. We love it. We have 2 beautiful and intelligent little girls, Sadie and Adeline, who go to Hopatcong schools and will continue to go to them because we believe in our public schools, our teachers, and our community. Every day, we work to instill our little girls with good hometown values, whether it's through our active leadership role in Girl Scouts or helping the community wherever the need is the most. I previously had served for 6 years on the Hopatcong Fire Department and probably seen most of you around town for one event or another. I am running alongside Natalia because we both have seen a desperate need in our schools as of late. We've really seen that there needs to be people on there with the experience.
15.
Thank you. So what Natalia and I are bringing to the table is 30 years of combined experience in education, the ability to write grants, lobby on behalf of our students' needs, and never backing down from a fight when it's the right fight to have. My own experience in the vocational...
That's
All right, Ms. Capello, it is your time.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Natalia Capello, and I am honored to be here as a candidate for the Hopatcong Board of Education. I'm proud to be running alongside James Chaffee as an advocate for children. I'm a 14-year educator who is passionate about opportunities for all students to succeed. My background includes a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics with a K-12 teaching certificate, a Master's of Science in Mathematics Learning and Teaching, and I'm a Doctor of Education in Curriculum Instruction, Instructional Design and Technology. My research focuses have been on mathematics education and improving standardized test scores through academic and non-academic means. My husband Frank and I are parents of 2 elementary-age children in Hopatcong schools, and we volunteer as coaches in youth sports programs like Hopatcong Hawks and Little League. I am the parent volunteer for Durban Ave School Climate and Safety Committee for the 4th year in a row. Frank and I are proud to send our children to Hopatcong schools, and we look forward to seeing all of their future academic growth and successes through their hometown education. As a teacher, I've worked closely with administration on school improvement plans, and I have been the designated teacher liaison for the annual school plan that requires documentation directly to the New Jersey Department of Education. I've advocated for accessibility to higher quality, more nutritional and sound foods options for typical and dietarily restricted students in a setting that provided subpar options to all the kids. My mathematics background has allowed me to work in an early college high school with grant funding and industry partners, yielding excellent opportunities for students to earn college credit while obtaining internships and paid positions while earning a high school diploma and an associate's degree. I have extensive training in teaching multiple language learners, students with disabilities, and advanced mathematics courses,
15.
and an extensive knowledge in grants and qualifications for alternative funding. Jim and I will advocate for all students and families if elected to the Hopatcong Board of Education. It's important to us that all voices are heard and represented.
Thank you for your opening statements. Again, we will go in the same order on this, so the first question is going to be for Jason Citric. Question is, how do you plan to improve schools with minimal funds?
Well, we just had the referendum shot down, and I took time. I'm not a social media guy, but I took time to look at some of the detractors that pointed out some issues with, and some of the line items in the referendum. And I'm not opposed to listening to proponents and opponents. I actively listen, and there's some things, you know what, that actually made sense to me that were on the referendum that, you know what, maybe we could hold off on temporarily. So currently, as the board sits, I'm gonna recommend that we maybe modify some of the items on there, identify the critical things that need to be done, such as the roofs, some of the hardware. I constantly get emails from, and pictures and from parents, and hear from students that some of the windows in some of the schools are duct tape closed. And it's maybe those things that we will prioritize, re-amend the referendum, and take, for lack of a better term, take out the fluff. Maybe we could look towards some of our stakeholders with the Warriors program to help us with the scoreboard. That was one of the line items on the referendum. So I think reevaluating some of the things that we put out, taking some things off that aren't quite necessary at this moment, and resubmitting a targeted referendum for critical items will help us accomplish that goal.
Thank you. The next question from Mr. Chaffee. It's a very similar question. How do you plan to improve schools with little money?
So, like Mr. Citrich said, it was a real disappointment that the referendum did fail, but also at the same time, I can see as being a taxpayer that there was a lot of fear over taxes going up. I can, really appreciate that, being a homeowner and everything else here in town. At the same time, of course, I wanted to succeed because I want for my kids to go to safe schools. And both my daughters have come home this year and unprompted have told me that there's rain coming down in the gym, that there is holes in the wall, that they are seeing conditions in their schools that are making them unhappy because they love their school. And it's sad when your child loves going to school, they love their teachers, they love their classroom, they love learning, and they're seeing their school falling apart around them. And that makes them sad. So I want to, first of all, say that, yeah, the referendum failed, but one thing that Natalia and I bring to the table is that we have a lot of experience. She worked in an inner city school, I still work in an inner city school, and if we don't write grants, we don't get a lot of the things that we need for our classrooms. If we don't go out there as teachers and lobby hard for those things that we need, we don't get them for our students. And that's one thing that if I get on the board, and I know Natalia and I we're gonna both work together to lobby hard, write those grants, get that money, and that way, hopefully we can take some of we can use those grants to fix the schools and then use that leftover money that we have in the pot for more programs for our kids.
Very good. Next question would be for Dr. Capello. Question is, do you expect the number of students attending Hopatcong schools to increase or decrease in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think if we look at the demographics and how quickly homes are selling in Hopatcong at this time, and if you look at our parks and our fields and our basketball courts, you'll see that over time we have seen more and more children playing in our town. And I think that's a telltale sign that we will see an increase in population in our schools. And I think that speaks for itself. I think we've seen a consistent increase, and I think we will continue to see a consistent increase.
Thank you. Go back to Mr. Citrick. Question is, what is the student ratio to teachers? Ratio of students to teachers.
There are certain topics as a board member that I know off the top of my head. That is not one of them.
Okay.
That's one that, I would obviously defer that type of question to the superintendent. He would have that information. So, to be completely honest with you, I don't know.
Thank you. Mr. Chaff. See, I should mix these up a little bit. It's the exact same question, Let's try this. All right, the question is, what are your plans to help make up lost funding from the state because of the funding cuts?
So I believe I addressed this when I was talking about trying to find more grants for our students, but I'll further elaborate. Working in a vocational school, one thing that I can see is that there's a lot of grants out there for vocational education. College isn't the only way for our students. And if we can go out there and we can pursue those vocational grants, we can bring in vocational programs to our students. They don't just have college as the only plan when they graduate. Now they have a vocational education as a plan, right? But we have to first pursue vocational education. We have to see where we can look at our teachers and see their flexibility. What kind of vocations can they help our kids with? And then once we can figure out what kind of vocations our kids can get, then we can start looking into those grants for vocational education and bringing more money into our schools for supplies and everything else, and allocating funds elsewhere as needed.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Capella. I'm mixing them up, I hope. Question is, should the schools close Tulsa Trail? Should Tulsa Trail School be closed?
I don't believe we should be closing any of our school buildings. I don't believe that reorganizing our schools and putting more children throughout our other 3 buildings would be beneficial to the student population. I think if we continue to see an increase in student population, we're gonna really need Tulsa Trail. And I think that the separation of grade levels at this time has been really working for our population. Once you close a school building, you're not getting it back. And we know that. We know we sold Hudson Maxim. We can't get that back. Every time you close the school building, it's gone for good. So I don't believe we should be closing Tulsa Trail. I have a daughter in Tulsa Trail. She loves her school. Those teachers deserve their home. And I don't think we, as a community, can afford to lose another school building.
Very good, thank you. Go back to Mr. Citrick. Question is, what's your stance on sex education curriculum in the schools?
Well, most of the curriculum is established by the state as far as sex education. This goes to, I never want to be in a position, or the teachers be in a position where they're parenting, not teaching. I went through sexual education myself when it was about procreation, and I think that's where it should stay.
Good, thank you. Mr. Chaffee, let's dig a little bit. Okay, the question is, with the Sparta Board of Education repealing policy 5756, what is your stance on repealing the policy in Hopatcong, seeing it's not a mandatory policy?
I would have to be familiar with what that policy is.
Okay,
I'm not from Sparta.
I understand that. The person who wrote this question, care to elaborate on that?
I didn't write the question, Don, but I believe that's regarding the same thing. I believe that's regarding the sex ed curriculum.
Okay,
No, it's not that.
I believe it's the-
Telling
No,
telling the parents if the kid wants to come in and change their gender.
Transgender.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that's about the
parents.
transgender and
Parent
the
choice or-
parents.
Yeah.
okay.
informing parents if.
So I can rephrase the question, or I can leave it to you to answer your best shot at the transgender question.
I think I'll try and answer it as that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I believe in parental rights. I believe that, that children, when they are telling teachers something in confidence, that the teacher's job is not to, as long as the child is not being hurt and the child is not threatening to hurt themselves, it's not our job to immediately call home and tell the parent, like, your child told me this. You know, one thing that my personal philosophy is I refer them to guidance. And I refer them to, we have a school psychologist in my district, and I say, you know, that your feelings are valid and that you need to go speak to somebody who is a professional that can handle this. But I don't feel it's a teacher's place to be calling home with regards to matters like that.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Cabela. What is your plan to improve schools with minimal funds?
That was a surprise.
Did you just go right down the line?
Right. Probably could. I want to be perfectly clear. Taking a seat or earning a seat on the Board of Education is not my only entryway to assist the district in obtaining funding, and to improving funding. I have already been communicating and working with the superintendent of schools. I've contacted him about school improvement grants, sustainability grants. I think I sent him a list of 5 different ones over different time, tutoring grants. So whether or not I earn a seat on November 7th doesn't impact how I will use my knowledge to assist. And I think grant funding at this time is our best outlet. We need to apply, and we need to continue to apply until we can get our kids what they need.
Very good, thank you. I can go on the top here. Dangerous. Mr. Citrick. They are a lot of the same questions. We're just gonna take them in different order, so at least that way there are a little bit of change. But what are your plans to help make up lost funding from the state because of the funding cuts?
As I mentioned before, putting out another referendum targeting critical areas, like high school roof that's leaking, and the garbage cans in the gym is completely unacceptable. Also, there are grants available for certain projects, but we cannot rely on a I'm a taxpayer in town, just like everybody else. I'm gonna be real. And you know what? My vacations are based on how much overtime I work and if I have to replace a dishwasher, so I'm not overly happy when taxes increase. But we've gone several years with a 0% tax increase when we have teacher raises. Inflation at one point was up to what, 8%? It's unfeasible to think that we cannot raise taxes by 2% to fund the schools and continue the way we are with 0 increase. It's not feasible. The schools have been cut to almost nothing. We can't even maintain a roof. We've been patching that roof on Tulsa and high school to the point where we can no longer patch it. It's gotta be replaced, and you know what, if I'm gonna give up, you know, if I'm gonna take weekend trips, so I could pay another $16 a month for my $200,000 house or $300,000 house, I'm gonna do it. If I'm gonna, you know what, hey, you know what, no Disney Plus, kids, that's how much it costs per month. Hey, you know what, but they're gonna have a school they can be proud of.
15.
I'll stop there, I'm gonna get worked up.
It's not a bad thing. Mr. Chaffee, your question, what percentage of students are transferring to other high schools?
That is an excellent question. I would love to know those numbers myself more specifically. I have heard as low as 15%, I've heard as high as 25%. And some, you know, again, this is all rumor. I have no clue what the actual true number is. But either way, 15 or 25%, that's still too high. Both of those numbers. And where are they going? They're going to places like Sussex Votech. They are going to Lenape Valley. Why? Because they see opportunity there that they're not finding here. I had a mother the other day that I spoke to when we went to the food fest actually, and the mother was telling me that her son is looking at Lenape. Why? Because he can't get the AP courses he wants here in Hopatcong. That's a shame. I can't imagine having a child that was gifted like hers and he can't get the AP classes he needs, so instead he has to go to Lenape. We have to fix that. We have to fix that right away. We need to make sure that the kids have options. And like I said, I'm a huge advocate for vocational education. I think that we need to have the kids learn to use their hands. They need to learn a skill and to take that skill home with them. And when they get to their senior year and they're sitting there saying, do I want to go to college? Do I want to go into debt and get a degree? Or do I want to go straight into the careers and possibly make some money and then later on pay for my college education myself? That's something that we as a community have to come together on and think about for our kids.
Very good, thank you.
While you're asking me a question, I'm not gonna be rude, I'm actually gonna catch a little draft and I'm gonna put my.
That's all right. I'll give you a second. How's that?
Thank you. I'm like shivering over here.
Okay, your lucky question. It's the same one, it's the Sparta Board of Education repealing policy 5756. So we understand from the general discussion here before what they're talking about. Would you care to answer that question?
As an employee of Roxbury Public Schools, we spent quite a bit of time discussing this policy. And it was indicated to us that the policy states that calling home with information regarding a student's choice on pronouns and their identity cannot be the only reason for a call. If we are calling home regarding grades, attendance, concerns, these discussions can happen. So I think it is important to inform our educators of that and to truly break down what the policy says before we can really make a full decision as a community on how we feel about it. Because I think there's a little bit of a misconception about the policy. So I think teachers are a safe space for many, many students, and I have previously worked in an urban district, and I was very much a safe space. And in that community, this policy literally protects the lives of students. In a community like Hopatcong, where home life is typically a little bit safer, I think that a more open discussion can be had.
Thank you. Mr. Citrick.
I say that with a lot of emotion because I've been there for those kids.
Okay, your question is, of the repairs needed in all the schools, what do you feel is the priorities?
Structurally, the priorities are the roofs, plain and simple. They've been patched for many, many years, and when it comes to the point where the high school gymnasium, you need to put a garbage can to collect the water, I think that's a priority. Secondarily to that, well, you just asked priority. The roofs are priority. I could rattle off a list, but I'm not going to.
Well, you have time if you'd like to rattle off.
Well, the second would be the windows. We get a picture of duct tape windows where you can't open them or close them. That's simply a safety issue. But some of the other stuff on there, yes, it was luxury items, I guess you could say. Things that need to be, that are 30 years old, that need to be replaced, but can we get along with it? The public spoke. Well, 25% of the public spoke during the referendum vote. The other 75 voters decided not to vote. Well, the 25% that did, the majority said, hey, you know what? This stuff isn't important to us. So in order to get that roof fixed, we may have to concede a couple things. We may have to patch up that school board and have someone sit under it and change the numbers rather than sit up in the booth. Well, our band, I feel for them, but maybe the audio equipment can't be fixed this year or the following year. But you know what? It's on our radar to fix. But priority, structurally, and safety. The roofs definitely need to be fixed. I don't know if anyone looked at some of the stuff Mr. D put up on the website, the pictures of the roofs, the patch, the exposed structures. It's not a safe environment, but most of all, these are facilities where we should have pride in. Kids can't go to school and have pride in their school if there's duct tape and water leaking from the ceiling. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chaffee, Your question, sir. How are the high school SAT scores doing compared with Lenape or Sparta schools?
Something that actually, I think it was about a year ago, I made mention of online because I was absolutely shocked to see the SAT scores here locally were far below those of other places in New Jersey like Camden and Newark, and I don't think that is a reflection on our teachers. I think that that was also coming after COVID and teaching online. I don't know if we have any teachers in the audience, but Natalia and I can tell you teaching online was a nightmare, and those scores came out after COVID. And every community, every child responded differently to being educated online. So I don't think we can hold, our teachers or our schools to those SAT scores. As for recent SAT scores, I have not seen. I don't believe they've been released yet. No, so I do think though there was a great amount of improvement needed in those scores.
Thank you. Dr. Capello. Question, what are your plans to help make up for the lost funding from the state because of the funding cuts?
I answered this. I already spoke to this a little bit, but I am an advocate for grant writing and obtaining grants. I would love to ring the doorbells of the people in Trenton. Don't tempt me, because I'll do it, and my husband can tell you I will go.
I'll probably have to go too.
Who's gonna drive you door to door? Truthfully, there are many opportunities for alternative funding. So aside from discussion of a referendum and improvement of increase in taxes, as stated, are obvious options, and may be very likely. I think grants are also, in addition to that, an excellent option.
Thank you. Cedric, your question is, congratulations, you are the third winner.
Oh, thank you.
Sparta Board of Education repealing policy 5756. What are your feelings on that, sir?
My feelings on that. Well, now that we have clarified what that policy is, I view teachers as mentors and confidants in some aspects. As my counterpart here said, you know what, if it's not a situation where the child is at physical or emotional risk, then I think we should maintain somewhat that relationship between the teachers. As a youth football coach, as a youth sports coach, I have kids confide in me. Obviously, if it's something that, rise to the level where I have to notify a parent, I'll notify a parent. But if something that, hey, I just wanna get this off my chest and I wanna talk to you about it, I'll certainly do that. If it exceeds my ability to work them through it, I'll certainly contact the parents. And in a situation like my counterpart said here, if it's a situation where the student comes up and he or she or they are really struggling with this topic, send them to the guidance counselor, send them to the school psychologist. But I don't think it raises that flag immediately where notification to a parent needs to be made.
Thank you. Mr. Chaffee, your question, what wasteful spending would you eliminate from the budget?
Ooh. Yeah, I guess, saying what's wasteful is an opinion, but thus far, I don't sit on the board, so I'm not exactly seeing what we're spending every single nickel and dime. And that's actually one thing that my running mate and I have said, is that we would like to see more transparency in those board minutes. We would like to see what our taxpayer dollars are being spent on so that we can make those calls. I can't sit here as somebody who's not currently on the board and say, oh, I'm gonna cut this, and that, until I see actually what we're spending money on.
Thank you. Dr. Capello. I was gonna say, it's your last question. Your question is, what's your stance on the sex ed curriculums in the schools?
I am married 10 years in 2 weeks to a K-8 health and phys ed teacher. So we have had many discussions about the sex ed and health curriculum. I am fully aware that the New Jersey Department of Education puts out curriculum, and it is mandated to be taught in New Jersey public schools. To state that we would not include that curriculum in our schools would risk losing all funding from the state of New Jersey. With that, I fully support every parent's choice to keep their children in that health lesson or remove their child from that health lesson. And I think every parent and every family has a choice that is right for their own home. And I think every parent needs to feel supported, and I think it's important that they have that choice. The information for the choice is on the school website. Jim and I have shared the law that allows you to have that choice, and we can share that again if anybody would like it, but I do know that the superintendent has put it on the school website. So it is a choice for every family to exclude their students from the health and sex ed curriculum. And I support that because it is mandated by the New Jersey Department of Education. We can't remove it from our curriculum and what's being taught in our schools.
Good, thank you. Mr. Citrick, final question so far. Don't get your hopes up.
Come on.
Why are the schools in such a state of disrepair?
Why are the schools in such disrepair? I have opted, since I've been on the board, not to focus on why or who. Since June, since I've been on the board, I focused on how we can get past this. I'm putting my energy not into why the school's in disrepair. I think most people know why. Obviously, a certain amount of attention or funding didn't go to those schools, but I'm not gonna waste my time on that. Obviously, we have a problem right now. Even touching on some of the questions I didn't even get about the schools, but I'm losing track here. I'm getting worked up. But once again, my energy and our energy should not be focused on why. We understand why, and we're gonna learn from that, and we're gonna move forward with that and focus on what needs to be done now. What needs to be done now is people have to accept the fact that, you know what, we're gonna have to pump money into the schools. My last thing I wanna do is close Tulsa Trail, because we have seen it in the past, as we bump grade levels up. And my son experienced this in 8th grade. Hey, you know what, we're gonna bump the 8th graders into high school, and they're gonna be contained. That didn't happen, which is one of the reasons why I stepped onto the board. We were sold a promise of something that was going to happen, and it never happened. It was intermingled with other students. But going back to the topic at hand, because I'm starting to branch off again, I'm gonna run out of time. Not enough funding went into the schools when it needed to, not proper maintenance, and there was a lack of understanding that sometimes things just get old and need to be replaced. My house, you know what, I'm not gonna put a couple shingles and a piece of plywood over a hole in my roof, I'm gonna replace my roof. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Chaff, you are the winner, sir. You have 2 questions.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm popular.
First one, surprise, what's your stance on the sex ed curriculum in the schools?
My partner, Natalia, couldn't have said it any better. I'm 100% in step with her. My opinion is the same. It's the state law. There is nothing legally that your board can do to change that, and you have every right as a parent to choose what your child is taught when it comes to the sex ed and health curriculum.
Good, thank you. And final question, if anyone has anything else they thought of, you still have time to write them down real quick and bring them up. Are you in favor of regionalizing Hopatcong with Lenape?
It's a great question. I really do like that question, actually, because regionalization is something with sharing costs, and sharing costs sounds wonderful. In the past, you know, you look at it and you're like, wow, if we regionalize, we could share buses and we can, you know, have better facilities and we can contribute to expanding those schools. But then you lose the heart of our community. You lose the love that our children have for their hometown schools. And above, you know, beyond the sentimental fact of it too, is that property values will tank. You know, your homes will lose values, and you know that shared cost might be rosy at first, but in the end, it's probably not going to be. So no, I don't favor regionalization.
Am I allowed to add to that? Am I allowed to add to that?
I think considering that we are out of question, and it's only 7:42, I don't have a problem with that, so yes, please, Dr. Capella.
I would just like to add that if, in situations where schools are regionalized, the sending district does not get proper representation in the regionalized school. So Lincoln Park Public Schools send to Boonton Public Schools. They are a majority of the population in Boonton Public Schools, and they get one member on the Board of Education to represent their populations of students. So, it sounds great, but our kids are not gonna be represented in that building.
May I?
We're good?
May I add to that?
Please.
Obviously, being on the board right now, I'm privy to some, you know, to some information, and I don't think I'm prohibited from saying it, but we actually, spoke to Lenape Valley, and they aren't in favor of Hopatcong students going to Lenape Valley. Their board shot it down. Additionally, their school, you know, I don't know the exact date of when it was built, but it's getting pretty old too. So if we would start setting, one, they couldn't handle our population of high school students. Two, if we would send our students there, we'd also be paying the bill to improve their schools. When we could just, you know what, buck up a little bit and improve ours, and keep our kids at home. We did look at additional schools in the area. But once again, now you're talking about your kid being on a bus for 45 minutes to an hour for high school. I enjoy the luxury of driving down to Hopatcong High School from my house up on Brendona Avenue to a football game. Do I want to drive across the lake to  maybe another school? Or drive down 206 to another school? Absolutely not. Do I want my kids on the bus for an hour? Absolutely not. So, I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're out of questions, so it becomes a matter of, shall we call that and let you mingle with the candidates after their closing statements? Or shall we open it up to any questions from the floor? Rachel, any ruling on that?
No, just by show of hands, does anybody else have any questions they want asked to be answered? We can give you an opportunity to write them. If not, then we can allow for closing statements and the mingling.
Okay, everybody is good?
Okay.
In that case, we will move to closing statements. Mr. Citrick?
Me first again?
Yes, you are number one.
They get it over with,
I
right?
got a question.
Yeah, yes, sir.
What can we do about getting more people in our community involved?
Okay, that's a question, and you will each have an opportunity to answer that.
Civic involvement is very tough. Just by the vote, 25% of registered voters. I put myself out there, whether it's youth sports, you know, running somebody a quick check, and you know, it's tough. People live busy lives, and not everybody is as altruistic and is willing to sacrifice their personal time for the community. But I think I try to lead by example. You guys, you know, in the wrestling program, we pull everybody in, and we're a little community on our own. Same with football, and that's how I think it's through the youth programs, through HEPDO in the schools, that we pull people in and you know, try to get them involved. You know, we do the Hudson Hike every year for the Hopatcong sports, and you know, it's hard pulling someone out of the house at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning to sit a post in the middle of the woods, and you know, meanwhile, that 20% is doing 80% of the work. I wish there was an easy answer, but you know, we live in a blue collar town. Moms and dads are both working. They're working Saturdays, they're working Sundays, you know, and sports programs. I'm sure at some point you guys say, you know, I'm working this, can you pick up my son? Can you pick up my son? Luckily, my wife has a 7-seater. Because I'm piling everybody in, and you know, parents are coming afterwards. But it's that example that, you know what, then the more apt to be like, you know what, I got an hour of my time. 15. And the more apt to do it. So it's little things build bigger things. And I'm hoping that I'm helping build that bigger thing.
Thank you. Mr. Chappie.
I think you're asking an age-old question that a lot of towns ask themselves is, how do we build civic pride? How do we get more participation out of our citizens? How do we get for our community to come together and work together? And like Mr. Citrus alluded to is, you know, one thing is through our youth organizations is bringing them together. You know, I'm a Girl Scout leader. I know that sounds funny, but the reason why I'm the reason why I'm a Daisy Den mother is because when my youngest daughter Adeline wanted to follow in her older sister's footsteps as a Girl Scout, the service unit leader said, well, we don't have a leader. And at the time there was only 2 girls who were signed up, and I said, well, you know, I'm a teacher. I was like, I think I can handle 2 kindergartners. And I said, if you can't find somebody, I'll do it. And sure enough, 3 months later, I'm a den mother. And my troop now has 12 girls in it. We got to the point actually right now where we're trying to get more parent involvement because I have a waiting list to get onto my troop. I have 3 girls who want to join, but they can't because your ratio of parents to children must be correct. And I'm out there all the time. I'm literally texting mothers, calling them, begging them. I'm like, please come down to tonight's meeting. I need to keep my ratio so I can have a meeting with these girls tonight. And what it comes down to is it's just seeing the smile on my kid's face at the end of the night, is that the fact that she got to have her meeting. And you know, the other day she actually said to me, she goes, I like you as my leader. And I said, oh yeah, why is that? And she goes, because you're funny. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll take it, you know.
15.
Thank you. So I guess that we all just kind of have to step up for our kids. And yeah, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm working a full-time job. I am the district historian for my school district, which has given me a whole nother job because we're celebrating our centennial this year. And I have a myriad of other things.
Thank you. Dr. Capella.
I completely agree with both of these guys. I think it starts at home, and I think the youth sports really do play a big part. I think as far as the public schools, I mean, there was a showing for referendum meetings, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, people started showing up. And I think it's time to start holding more forum style meetings and having discussions about budgets and about where money is going and how to improve schools and kind of force the community to get involved. Like, you can't complain if you're not gonna show up and have the discussion with us, right? So I think that it's important to start doing that and holding kind of the whole community accountable, because our schools represent our entire community, right? So I'm a big advocate for forums. I've taught in districts that held them every year for the budget, and it was a pretty big turnout. And I think that that's really important to at least invite everyone and kind of say, if you wanna have the discussion, if you wanna complain, then you gotta be part of the process, kind of thing.
Thank you. All right, another question.
I don't have so much as a question, just basically a statement that probably everybody in this room knows, and I would like to see a lot more people here, because this is an important night, an important event for the community. But the statement that I have as past board president is, your town is only as good as your school district. So you look around at other towns and other communities, and their anchor is their schools. So, you know, we've got to put, you know, more effort and just, you know, work at it, and I think we'll be fine. But yeah, to your point, we need more people involved. You know, it's not just you know, the 15 or 20 of us here, you know, and that's real important.
Can I,
Thank you. As
Can I
a-
respond to that?
You can, but I'm just gonna make one statement as a point of order. We're only open for questions at this part of the meeting, not for statements. There is a meeting after this, but yes, I will allow the three of you. Doctor, you can go first, and if the other two wish to respond.
I would like to add to that and say that I think it's a really nice indicator of our community that there's no disagreement. Like Jim and I are running together because we knew each other and we filed together and we have a lot of the same ideas. But I think all four candidates are here for the same reason. And we're really here for the kids, right?
You're killing my closing statement.
Sorry, I know I'm killing my own closing statement, I really am. But you look around at the neighboring communities and communities across New Jersey, and there's a lot of battles in the Board of Ed candidacies right now, right? And people are arguing, and I know somebody running in Central Jersey, and there's threats, and it's wild out there, right? And I look around, and we're all here for the same reason, which is really, really nice, and I think that's important and a nice stepping stone and a nice starter for kind of where we can go with this, right? I think it's important to notice that.
Thank you. Mr. Chaffee, we will go to you next.
I have no response, thank you.
Thought you were gonna get a minute, Mr. Citrin.
Thank you for your question. You're absolutely right. The heart of the community is the schools. And as Mr. Falcone, I'm gonna give him some props, and we talked about it, that you look at a town like Mount Olive. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with that whole collegiate complex they call a high school, but that dome they have over that field was a collaboration between the the council, municipality, and the Board of Education. They split the cost on that. It shows that they are working together, which is something that we're almost at odds. Sometimes I view it. And you know, I've lived in this town for quite some time, and it always seemed like we were in two silos, the Board of Ed and the town. Because, you know what, the Board of Ed raises our taxes a little bit, it's gonna reflect on us. We should all be working towards one goal, and when there's an issue, we shouldn't look at, hey, you know what, the issue isn't with A or B, the issue is the issue. Rather than looking at people, just like I mentioned before, with why is the school, you know, why are they so run down? Why are the roof leaking? You know what? I'm not attacking the person, I'm attacking the issue. And people should focus and put that energy on the issue. The issue is, you know what? We're only as good as our schools, like you mentioned. And that's 100% true. So I think it's, you know, with maybe some of the changes that are gonna occur in November, maybe that will reestablish that relationship and we'll all work together towards a common goal. That's all.
Thank you. So we would now move to closing statements. As you just finished that statement, I will start on the other side of the table. Dr. Capella. closing.
So I want to thank the Northwood community for welcoming and introducing the Board of Education candidates tonight. The four candidates sitting here are all passionate about improving Hopatcong schools, and I respect all the candidates and look forward to working with them in a variety of capacities. I'd like to reiterate that while Jim and I are new faces to many, we're experienced in educational opportunities and alternative funding and are willing to knock on the doors of Trenton to get answers for our children's sake. Our community undoubtedly wants transparency, honesty, and determination to improve our public schools. As we sit here tonight, we do just that. Regardless of the result on November 7th, you'll see Jim and I involved. And we'll continue to ask questions and hold people accountable for funding, opportunities, and safety. On November 7th, try to remember 3 and 4. We're advocates for children, and we're here to represent all of the members of the Hopatcong community. Thank you.
Mr. Chack.
I would also like to thank the Northwood Community Association for hosting tonight, really running very smoothly. What it comes down to is this November is that experience is on the ballot, and because like we've all said, we share very similar beliefs. We are up here because we love our children. We are up here because we want to make sure that our children go to safe, good schools. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want. But Natalia and I, we're bringing that experience, that knowledge and the skills to get that job done. With your help, we can fix our school's problems. We can get them back on track. We can expand on our vocational programs, career readiness. We can ensure that kids that dream of college get there but are not buried in debt. We can fix the leaks in our school roofs, and we can repair the holes in our walls. We can make sure that they have nutritional meals in the cafeteria. We as a community, we can do all this and more, but what we're asking is that you vote for us, numbers 3 and 4, in November. Thank you.
And Mr. Citrin.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming too, because you know what, I just knew the name, didn't even know the faces, but it was nice to meet you tonight.
Nice to meet you as well.
I didn't come here to convince you to vote for me. I came here to give you a glimpse of who I am, where I stand, what's important to me, what I do in the community, and I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm giving you this glimpse so you have an informed decision, or you're informed. When you go to the polls in November and you vote, at least you know who I am, where I stand, where my counterparts stand. And you know what, we each have different skill sets, different character traits, but I think one thing we have in common is that we're for the schools, we're for the children, but we're also gonna be fiscally responsible about how we're spending that money. And as you mentioned, transparency is important. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I'm not gonna lie to anybody, and what you see is what you get with me. But I thank you for your time, and granted, this was a 58-minute glimpse of who I am, but if you want to get to know me a little bit afterwards, by all means, I'm gonna be hanging out here a little bit, okay? Thank you.
Very good, thank you. That will conclude this portion of the meeting. I want to thank the Northwood Association for asking me to moderate this, and express my thanks to you, the audience, for your courtesy in this meeting, and to the candidates for coming up to speak. It is not an easy thing to do, and I applaud you all for trying to make a difference in your town. Hopefully you folks will stick around and continue to be courteous by asking any other questions that you may have. There are some waters and snacks back there, so please feel free to do that. Is there anything else you need from me?
No, if anybody has any suggestions, takeaways, and how we can improve this for next year, again, we feel it's vital for the community to always vote informed. I got some great suggestions already on how we can advertise this better for future events. So if you have any other questions, comments, let us know, and we'll incorporate that going forward. But thank you all again for coming out tonight.
Thank
And
you.
let me remind you that tomorrow night here at the same time is Meet the Candidates for the town government, not for the school board, and that is also equally important, and I would encourage you all to attend that. Thank you all so much.
You.
Have a great night.